Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sherry. This is my channel, Sherry Jones Designs. And today we're going to be making this cute jumper dress. A lot of you guys requested this in my last video, so I'm going to show you how I made it. First thing we're going to do is start with a t-shirt. You're going to want something that's very stiff. This one is 90% or more of cotton, so there's not a lot of stretch. And then you're going to want some sleeves. Now you can use a skirt for the bottom of this and skip the rest of this, but for this tutorial, I'll be using a men's shirt, and I will be using sleeves and some scraps of denim and a t-shirt. So first thing I want to show you is how it's put together. It has sleeves at the end here, and this is a great way to use up bits and pieces of clothing that you might be upcycling. So in the middle, I use a little strip of denim to connect those. Notice it's the same width as the cuffs. And for the very center of the bottom skirt is the bottom of a shirt. And for the top, I want to show you what these look like when they're finished. And this is basically the t-shirt. I've removed sleeves, I've narrowed the shoulder, and I've turned everything under 1/4 inch. I also cut the neckline, the neck off, and I made it lower. So these are men's shirts. They have deeper sleeves, so if you're using a women's shirt, you may have to lower the sleeve a little bit more than I am doing here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the sleeves off this t-shirt, and I'm going to cut this shoulder in by at least 2 inches, and then I'm going to fold this shirt over so that I get the same cut on the other side. And this assures that I have the garment is nice and balanced. And then the next thing you want to do is cut the collar off, and I apologize for my lighting. I'm not sure why I was having trouble this day. Some days I have more natural light in my studio, so I'm thinking that might be the reason. So please excuse that. And then I'm going to lower the neckline a little bit. I kind of wished I would have actually lowered a little bit more than I did. And everything's going to get turned under 1/4 inch. So remember that when you are cutting yours. Now we're going to cut down about 4 to 5 inches below the bottom of where the sleeve was. So at the armhole, we're going to cut it off at 4 to 5 inches straight across. And next thing we're going to do is hem it. And so here you see it's hemmed 1/4 inch under. And now I'm removing the stays that they put in the shoulders. We're going to cut that out, and that's where we're going to attach our straps. And for straps, I just use leftover knit I had from another project that I had done, and I cut them the same width as the shoulder of the t-shirt that I was just cut open. But if you cut, you want thicker straps, you can cut your straps wider and just gather them to fit the t-shirt, because when you pull on this knit, it becomes quite small. So if you want a thicker tie, you can make it wider. Just gather it where you sew it to your shirt, and you'll be just fine. Now you're going to want to put right sides together of your t-shirts here, and you clip them or pin them, and you're going to sew those straight across the top and attach your straps. Now I wasn't sure if my straps were long enough, but I found out after stretching one that they were. So I decided to go ahead and cut my little strap pieces in half and attach each one just as I did that first one. And so that's what I did. I cut each one in half, and I'm putting them right sides together, and I am going to sew each one of those straps on. So after I've got them sewn on and in place, next is kind of a fun part. We're going to stretch them out, and we're going to tie it. We're going to tie our little knots. Now, how you tie yours, it depends on what you like. I try to tie right at the seam to give it strength. Sometimes they want to slip above that seam. So if you do tie yours higher than your original seam where they meet, you do want to make sure your seam has been sewn across 2 or 3 times really well, so that there's enough strength to hold the garment without tearing. Because this is a pretty long dress, and there is quite a bit of weight to it. But after you get done, you should have something similar to that. And wouldn't that make just a cute cut off shirt by itself? I think that would be actually really cute. Next, we are going to cut our sleeves open, and then I'm going to sew them shut. You guys have seen me do this in other videos if you've watched my previous videos. And after I've sewn each one of those sleeves shut, which by the way, your machine should be able to, you can turn your needle to the right or left to get closer. Sometimes they're a little tricky to sew shut, so you can do that. And here I matched the center of my sleeve to the very center of the armpit of the shirt to make sure that my sleeve is centered. And I've put my buttons to the front of the shirt on the sleeve because I like to see more buttons up front. And I've done the same thing on the second one. I found the center of the cuff, and I matched it to the very center point underneath the armhole, or right at the armhole of the sleeve. And so this is actually put together very quick. It doesn't take too long to make one of these, and they're really cute. So next we're going to be, this is what you should have. We are going to put a piece of denim in there. And so I grabbed some scrap denim, and I actually like the reverse of this denim better than the front, so I'm using the back side. And you're going to cut a couple of strips the same width as your cuff, so to sew in between your sleeves. And so make sure you sew your top on first. Don't do the sides. Always sew your top piece first and then sew your sides down. And that'll keep you straight. And make sure your t-shirt isn't pulling, because sometimes it wants to hang off with the sleeves, wants to hang off your sewing table or desk, whatever you're sewing on, and it will stretch your t-shirt. So make sure that the shirt is relaxed and it's not pulled, or otherwise your seam will be wavy and not so pretty. So now I'm going to stop, and what I do is once I get to where I'm going here, I go up, I sew up and down like that, and I trim my denim off. And you should have something like this. So all we have left besides decorating it is to put the men's shirt in here. So here I'm going to button up the men's shirt all the way up, and I'm going to lay it flat. I was curious as I was making this video if this men's shirt was big enough. Now you could use any shirt, doesn't have to be men's, it just has to be big enough. Or you could use scraps of fabric to fill the middle of this. It could be a tablecloth you found. It can be anything that would fit in here. The bottom of this whole thing could just be a skirt you attach to a t-shirt, and you cut the t-shirt and create the ties. It's really that simple. But what I had to do here on this one was cut it at an angle. Now the very first dress you saw, if you saw the one at the beginning, if you saw that one, it is not made at an angle. It's just a straight piece of fabric in there. But I had to do this because the shirt wasn't as wide as the other shirt, and I was up into the sleeve if I just wanted to cut straight across. See how high I am across there? That's how tall of a piece I needed. And I really didn't want to destroy those sleeves because I had other plans for those sleeves. We're going to use them in another project. So here I am cutting the piece that I'm going to need, and I made sure that it would fit in there and that I would have enough doing it this way. And I'm pinning it in place, and I separated it now from the back piece, and I'm just going to sew it in place. I've centered the buttons to the center of the garment. But you could use scraps to fill this in. You could use whatever fabric to fill this centerpiece in. It's only limited by your imagination. And the bottom of the skirt could have been many, many things. So now, after you always sew your top in first before you sew your sides in first, because otherwise you can get an angled piece that doesn't lay flat, and that's very frustrating. So, and this is one reason I like my flat desk. This desk allows me to make sure that my garment I'm sewing is laying out flat, and that I don't have bunching and gathering. And guys, we are actually almost done. And I was pointing out there that doesn't matter if it's a little short, it's just fine. It'll just add to the aesthetic of the garment, and no problem there. And you could add pockets to this. You could do a lot of different stuff to it. You can decorate this however you want to. You could have cutouts with lace showing through. You could end it with lace all around the bottom, and there I'm showing that sleeves curve in, and if you just let it curve on top of your other piece, you won't have buckling at the bottom of your garment. So guys, thank you so much for watching my videos. Please don't forget there is a free Discord in the description down below. Please like, share, and subscribe. And thank you guys for everything. I love you so much. And until next time, happy sewing!